Greetings, adventurers, and welcome to the Micflayers podcast, coming to you today from the character creation screen. I am your host, Martin, and with me today, as always, is your host, Conor. How are you doing today, Conor?
Not bad, buddy. How are you, folks?
I'm.
I don't know why I said that. They can't answer.
Interaction between the audience is always good, man. It's always good. But I know I'm doing good. We've got a fun episode today. It's another viewer requested episode, so I'm really excited to get into it. And it actually comes from someone in my party, Steve, my rogue. So it should be a fun one. We're going to talk a bit about character creation today. But before we do, some really cool stuff came out this week that I think it'd be fun to talk about because it kind of ties into this.
Yeah, totally. So there's the Folk of the Feywild was the UA that came out this week. And there's 4 new. Are we going by lineages? Is that the new terminology for it? Lineages, I believe.
See, I think they actually use the term race. Yeah, they use race, the term race as a thing here. But it's fair enough. Like they're lineages as well, because you can use the lineage editor with these, I'd imagine.
Yeah, there's also what's the other one that people use as well? There's race, lineage, and
origin.
No, not origin. Something else. Heritage, I think, is the other word people use when describing it. But yeah, it's all we all know. It's D&D. We all know what it is. Yeah. Sorry, I just realized I left the part out of my notes.
You're correct.
There we go. Forgot how to spell. Okay. Yeah, but there's new Fey-based lineage.
Professional podcasting.
Super professional. I'm kind of regretting getting the. I specifically bought a clacky keyboard because I'm like, that'll sound really nice when I'm typing, but not everyone else wants to listen to that shit.
Yeah. I try to avoid typing when we're podcasting as much as possible because my keyboard sounds like a steam train running across, like, what are those things? Snaps? Do you know those jokes used to throw on the ground and they'd like pop and make it?
Yeah, they made a little pop sound.
Yeah, it sounds like a train running across those when I type. So I try not to look stuff up while we're on the podcast. But yeah, anyway, back to the Fey folk. We've got a handful of some interesting ones. There's a couple of them that like really stick out to me, that I thought were pretty cool. We had a really short chat about them just before we started recording. You were saying there's a couple that stick out to you too. Do you want to tell us about what ones kind of like jump out to you most at first?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was just going to go in order about what I liked.
We can do that too.
Yeah, that's okay. Kind of stealing the show from you there, Martin. Sorry. So the fairies are the first one to go. So fairies are now, well, UA anyway. They're a playable race in UA. Very interesting, small in size. A couple of things that jumped out about the fairies to me is one that their type is actually Fey, which is interesting. I think we've seen that a little bit more and more, that not all player characters are humanoids anymore, and you can actually play alternate creature types, which is very, very interesting. Depending on magic items and stuff, that could be good or bad. If a fairy is, like, for example, you have a spear that does extra damage to Fey. If you had an NPC that you needed to kill, that would work out very well for you. Alternatively,
quite badly for them as well.
Someone else could be your type could be fairy, and someone else could be wielding that spear against the party, or something like that. Or maybe there's certain magic items. I like, honestly, it could be hours and hours going through the list of magic items to decide or discover which magic items are do any of them say specifically attuned by a humanoid, or when a humanoid attunes to this or something, will that be so that will things be restrictive that way? I don't think so. I think most things just say when a creature attunes to this or something like that.
Usually the restrictions are like alignment or class based, aren't they?
Exactly, yeah. So I don't think there's a lot of that, but it's a possibility. But the things that jumped out to me were, one, the wording of how their fly speed works. Fly speed is tied to movement, which means that you could take things like what's the feat? The mobile feat. You could take mobile, or you could be a monk, and that means that as your speed goes up, you could be a fairy monk, and as your speed goes up for walking, your flying speed does as well. You could end up with some absolutely crazy fly speeds just all the time, which is something that was previously only achievable by Aarakocra. But even the way their speed works, they have 25 walking and a flat 50 flying, which is not altered or determined by their walking speed. So even if they were a monk, or if they took movement, or mobile, you wouldn't be able to alter their fly speed. It's not terrible, but it has the potential to be something that's quite broken.
I'm just like, right now that you mentioned it, I'm super tempted to like rebuild the Flash, but as a fairy.
Yeah, oh, that'd be really cool. And like they actually have these Fey characteristic things where they like you have exceptionally large ears, you roll on a table, or let me see, you smell like fresh brownies. There's a noticeable harmless chill surrounds you. You could always homebrew one with your DM and say, yeah, there's like crackling lightning all around me at all times or whatever. That's like harmless.
Yeah, if you don't have that like spectral horn that makes you look like a unicorn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's very cool. It's a nice option, and I think it could be very interesting. It's one of the ones. Okay, there's 4 of these I could see using in my world, and one of them I could not. So I'm just kind of like, it doesn't grab me.
Which is the one that you don't see using.
The last one, Rabbit Folk.
Yeah, I like some of the things in Rabbit Folk. I find it funny, but yeah, they didn't super appeal to me.
Yeah.
I thought an interesting thing as well, because you pointed out that the fairies are actually classed as Fey. They are, even though all these things are classed under the Fey folk, everything else is a humanoid.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they are humanoids from the Fey and stuff, but I think that's very interesting. And like I said, I feel like they've been doing this recently. I feel like this isn't the only time. I think your class is undead was with the Gothic lineages. I think they had some of those you counted as undead, which again opens up the doors for like, I know there's some spells that can turn undead and stuff like that. So I mean, destroy undead, exactly. Yeah, there's some stuff in there that's potentially it just opens the door for some unique takes. I think when the player characters are no longer always humanoids, you can mess around with that a little bit. It could be very, very fun. That maybe certain things do or do not work for you. I've always kind of thought in my world, for example, and I think in a lot of D&D, there's a tie between elves and the Feywild. Now, I don't explicitly rule that elves are Fey in my world. They have like Fey lineage, but they're not actually Fey. But I would rule that Eladrin certainly are Fey. They're in my world, they are still very much tied to the Fey, whereas Wood Elves and High Elves and all this other stuff, they are in the material world for long enough that they're no longer quite classed as Fey. They've been a bit separated from it.
Yeah.
But I think it's for that's just cool to me that I like that this is a possibility. That you can have these different types.
Yeah. I always looked at it's probably just because I'm a massive Tolkien nerd, but I've always looked at the way there's the Fey and then there's elves, and then the elves have Fey lineage. So like they're similar but not the same. I always looked at that like the Númenóreans and Aragorn in Tolkien, and that like he is descended from Númenor, but he does so he has some of their traits, like he's the extremely long life and all that, but he isn't like a straight up full on Númenórean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because so again, and I think that's the Fey ancestry is a class feature elves have, and I think it's kind of encapsulated in that is that it's their ancestry. Their ancestors had these abilities. Some of them have carried down, but they're not strictly, Fey or anything like that. Another one that really jumped out to me, which I thought was weird, but I don't dislike, is the Fey passage thing, where they can move through a gap that's as wide as an inch. And I'm like, I kind of love that because it's kind of like Alice in Wonderland perspective magic kind of stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah, it gave me real strong like Peter Pan vibes, like Tinkerbell going through keyholes and stuff.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. I just think it's really, really wacky. And it could make for some like no other. I think only like typically it's like oozes and stuff have that in D&D. So the fact that a player character can
elementals can do it as well.
Oh yes, elementals. Yeah, fire, water, and air. I believe can all move through. But I mean, that's really cool that a player character could have that.
Yeah.
And could make again, if you go rogue, that could be very interesting.
Just thinking, pick a lock from the inside.
Exactly. Yeah, that'd be really, really cool.
You're like pushing the tumblers into place rather than like actually picking the lock. Yeah. That would be so cool. Oh man, I thought fairies were kind of lame to be honest, but that concept is really cool.
Yeah, but also, I'm telling you, a fairy rogue would be absolutely bizarre
with like tiny knives, and it's just like, and then someone just dies.
I love the idea of like criminal background fairy rogue, like thief or something, or maybe an assassin, and you're trying to get into a club or something like that.
A fairy thieves guild would be so class. That would be so hard.
Oh, that'd be really cool.
Oh my god, that's the borrowers.
I wasn't going there at all. I was like, what if the tooth fairy, or the concept of the tooth fairy, was actually many fairies and they were all thief rogues, and they break into like children. Not okay. It's not. It could be gruesome if you want it to be, where they steal teeth in like a really crazy way. But what if they're just like, oh, we break in, we take the tooth, and we leave a coin, and it's genuine fairy rogue like characters that do this? That'd be awesome. You actually play the tooth fairy in D&D.
Have you ever seen that film Rise of the Guardians?
Is that the one with Jack Frost as a character in it? Yes, I've seen it. Not a long time, but I remember seeing
the
it.
The tooth fairies in that are like that. There is the tooth fairy, and then she has all these other fairies that go out and collect the teeth for her and leave behind coins.
Yeah, she's in like upper management now, and she's like delegating.
CEO of tooth collection.
Yeah. I used to do this job. Oh God, I started doing this job. I wrote the book on doing this job, but now I have a lot of people working for me, and I can outsource it to them, third-party clients and stuff like that.
CEO of tooth collection sounds like it's your job to just go around fucking people up.
Yeah, I was going to say it'd be really funny if you were playing like a fairy rogue and you had a couple of like knives, and there's like an orc guarding the entrance to the tavern. He's like, "You're not coming in," and you're like, "Get out of the way, or I'll fucking cut you." Just like a couple of this little like tiny creature with a couple of knives. Like, I'll mess you up.
I'll send you to Neverland, bitch.
Or conversely, like, and a voice I love doing whenever there's a small character in my world, I feel like I gravitate towards this voice because it's like funny to me. Is like someone like a gnome or a halfling, or in this case a fairy, who's like, you're like, oh, you're very cute. He's like, don't talk to me, man. And he's a sticker. He's like, don't fucking call me cute, or I'll bust you up.
Oh god, it's like
Rocket Raccoon. This is where you go to. But
I was thinking of the thing. It's, you know, in The Simpsons where they hire a family to play The Simpsons, and then like Sunny Man takes the Maggie head off, and it's an owl fella. And he's like, this fucking job, man.
Yeah. I just pity of a super gristled smoker's cough fairy rogue is hilarious to me.
Cool. So just to like maybe get somewhere back to the point, one that I really liked, and we actually had a quick chat about but didn't go into a lot of detail about, was the owl folk. I love the owl folk. Like Aarakocra are really cool anyway, but like, and I know there are probably a lot of people who do flavor the Aarakocra to be like a hawk or an owl or
and I love that idea as well, that when you take, or even like if you look at like a lot of the kind of like animal kind of races, they what would you call them, like anthropomorphized?
Yeah, anthropomorphized.
Yeah, kind of races. I like to mix a bit of diversity into them, where like sometimes lizard folk look like crocodiles, other times they look like Komodo dragons, other times they look like bearded dragons, you know, and they come in all shapes and sizes. And likewise, Aarakocra, I saw someone do an Aarakocra once. This artist guy, I think it's Arcane Forge. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he did one. No, he didn't. I think it was a Kenku he did. But instead of like a crow, he made his Kenku a pigeon, because he was like an urban Kenku, cool. And he lived in the cities. And it was really, but I loved it. It was so cool. And I love the idea of doing that. The same thing with Tabaxi as well. So yeah, sometimes they can look like leopards and stuff like that. But other times, what if they look like lions and they have a bit of a mane? Or what if they look like panthers or even house cats? You know, they can be really, really awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've done something like that in my world, where my players have actually just arrived on it, but in the Dragonborn homeland, it's called Yosei Ryu. It's based on like on Japan. It's like in Japanese culture. So their Dragonborn are more like the Asian style dragons, where they have like the long serpentine necks and long tails and like antlers and stuff. But where my players have been currently, they have seen other Dragonborn. And those Dragonborn are more like the Western style dragons, where they have like more of a humanoid shape, don't have the big long serpentine neck.
Yeah, they're kind of broader and have I get
I thought it was just cool to do a little like evolutionary dimorphism. I'm not sure. I've definitely.
I get you, where like maybe they started off as one tribe, but then they lived in separate parts of the world, and as a result, then you get this.
All Dragonborn started like the more Asian style serpentine, and as they spread their like the locations that they chose to settle in influenced factors, and then they kind of adapted to that location and kind of a better
that's super interesting in like humans as well, like in terms of real world human evolution. And I love the idea of applying that as well, to be like, oh well, these people maybe they live in the north, so maybe these what you call these.
It's like Polynesian people have thicker bones because they generally live around areas of, I think it's around the equator, and areas of like high tectonic activity.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I was watching.
No, I think that's true. I've heard that. I cannot guarantee that's scientifically accurate.
There's one I heard during the week, because I mentioned to you a little while ago. I was watching a lot of Matt Colville videos recently, And he mentions in one of his videos, he describes a character, and he describes them with is it an epi something fold, which is the fold or the kind of crease above the eye that Asian people have. And apparently, he said, and I could be wrong, or he could be wrong, that this is an evolutionary thing from cold weather. So from dealing with colder climates, which is but that's super interesting that there's reason behind it. People don't just look different because they're from different places. There's like environmental reasons and stuff. And like you said, I mean, you could have, I'm trying to think, what are they called? The hyena people. Right, help me.
Gnolls.
Gnolls. God, oh my God. I was nowhere near gnolls. I had a lot of other words. I had Yagnu in my head, but I didn't have Gnoll.
Yihangu is isn't that the
god.
Gnoll god? Yeah.
Or the demon god or whatever, yeah. But yeah, so gnolls, for example, you could have gnolls that live in the north and as a result have fairer, well, I suppose they'd have darker. I've never gotten that. That doesn't hit, but they might have thicker fur, for example, or they might have like.
It's like how there's polar bear lycanthropes in
yes, there's a polar bear lycanthrope, but again, which is really really cool.
Yeah.
I like the idea of yeah. Well, we were saying about just we get us back on track. We like the idea of owl folk, but also having the idea that there's diversity within Aarakocra and stuff like that.
Totally.
As well, yeah.
But like if you want to specifically go down the route of now, owl folk have some really cool abilities. So you creature type, you're a humanoid, like everything else other than the fairies in this thing. You could choose to be medium or small, which is cool. So you could be like a tiny little.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's you are either medium or small. You choose the size when you gain this race. So like you could choose to be like
that's so interesting.
A really tiny like small owl, or you could be like one of those terrifying like gigantic owls that look like they like spawn.
Yeah. You're either is it Pigwidgeon or your Hedwig. Pigwidgeon is meant to be this like little runty owl, and then Hedwig is meant to be this huge snowy barn owl or snowy owl. Snowy owl,
yeah. But it was really cool. They actually have 2 arms, 2 legs. Their wings come out around their shoulders. And you have 30-foot walking speed, dark vision you can see in dim light to 90 feet as if for bright and darkness, and shades of grey like most other races who have dark vision. But that's
interesting. That's 90 feet as well, and not 60 which is fairly standard otherwise. Owls again, hunters. They're night hunters, yeah.
And that's kind of that like preternaturally great sight that owls have is kind of doubled up on here with magic sight, which basically is you can focus your eye, the lenses of your eyes, to see magic, which lets you cast detect magic as a ritual. So you can take 10 minutes to cast detect magic.
Yeah, you can cast it at will as long as it's a ritual, which I love. That's so
super cool.
I love the idea because, again, like you said, because their eyes are so owls' eyes are such a thing in nature. They have such good eyes. I love the idea of kind of doubling down on that and being like, hey, when they're fairy or fey owl folk, it's more so because they can see magic or whatever, which is awesome.
And like owls are always associated with wisdom, and perception is a wisdom-based skill.
Exactly. There's another one there. The fly speed equal to the walking speed, same as the fairies, which again, room for abuse, but I had no problems with it. One that stood out to me, which I loved, is the nimble flight ability.
Yes,
so they basically have a fly speed, right? And it's set to their walking speed. But then they have this other thing: when you fall, you can use a reaction to make a dexterity saving throw DC 10 to stop falling and fly in place until the start of your next turn. Now, the weirder that's very slightly weird to me, just to say until the start of your next turn. That would almost imply that you stop flying then, but you have a fly speed, so you can just continue flying.
You hover in place until the start of your next turn, at which point you can move as usual.
Yeah, that would actually make sense. Actually, do you know what? It would, because the fly speed that they have does not have the ability to hover, whereas the fairy did. So that would make sense. You do normally need to continue moving with a regular fly speed.
The fairy doesn't actually have to move its wings to fly either.
They don't even have to have wings. It's actually one of the characteristics you can pick on that list is that they could have wings if you want them to, but they don't have to have them. They could just be like, they could be just glitter, like pixie dust coming off you or whatever, that allows you to, or fairy dust, whatever, that allows you to fly.
And you also have proficiency with stealth, which is cool, and also very thematic for owls, being like the night hunter as well.
Owls actually have, like their wings have evolved that air passes around and through them silently or more quietly than other animals.
That's so cool.
Which I love. Like, it's actually, I don't think I have to double check. I don't think typical owls in D&D have that, but I do love that their wings, the way their wings are shaped, is different than other predatory birds, because let's say like an eagle or a falcon, they're designed for speed, and they will spot something and they will dive and they will go for it. Whereas an owl is more like, I'm going to glide in behind it at some speed, but it's mostly about being silent. They could be really, really awesome as a race. I do like the owl folk a lot, and I could see myself putting them into my world somewhere, whether they're either Fey origin or something else. But I do love. I love this about them. Yeah,
they would be cool to throw into, like, instead, say, like a Fangorn type forest in your world, instead of having it guarded like by your classical like wood elves or something. You could have like you could have a group of owl folk who live in the trees of this like darkened wood and hunt anything that passes through it.
I'm actually just noticing something that is missing from all of them.
Which is?
Language. There's no languages listed on any of them. There's a cover somewhere else. Oh, languages. Here we go. Your character can speak, read, write Common, and one other language that you and your DM agree is appropriate for the character. That's listed higher up. So it's not listed on the actual character blocks. It's listed higher up. That's fair enough. Because I was going to say, I was looking at them like, can they not speak? Kind of like Kenku or whatever, but no, that's fair enough. Yeah. Yeah, I really like the owl folk. I could totally see myself including them in my world, which I really, really like. Yeah. There's one here that was very interesting to me.
I think I know what it is too.
Well, I'm talking about the hobgoblin.
Oh yeah, so that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. So now there is a hobgoblin. Well, there's hobgoblin. Yeah, I know, right? There's hobgoblin of the Feywild, right? So they have a lot of the same stuff that your typical hobgoblins do. Same walking speed, same size, 60 feet dark vision. They have Fey ancestry now, so similar to elves. Advantage on saving throws. You can make to avoid or end a charm condition on yourself. They have a thing called Fey Gift. Actually, no, I'll come back to this in a second. Right? I'll come back to this in a second. Firstly, they have a thing called Fortune of the Many. This is actually identical to the previous hobgoblin thing from Volo's Guide, where they have an ability called Saving Face, and they work for two different reasons, but they work exactly the same. Well, almost exactly the same. So for the Fey hobgoblin, it's about bonds you have with people, and the more bonds you have, the more supported you feel.
How very shown in anime.
But like that's what gives you this bonus. So basically, if you miss an attack roll, fail an ability check, or a saving throw, you can draw on your bonds of reciprocity. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep. It's a pretty hard word to pronounce. And gain a bonus to the roll equal to the number of allies you can see within 30 feet, or with a maximum number of 5. So that's really, really cool, right? That's the exact same as the Saving Face ability. But the Saving Face ability is because hobgoblins, being kind of leaders among the goblinoid community, it's called Saving Face because you can't look weak in front of your subordinates. So the more allies, quote unquote subordinates, that you have around you, you will get this bonus because you can't fail. You can't be seen to look weak. And it's funny that the ability is the same, but why the reasoning works differently for both of them, you know?
Yeah, no, I do like that a lot. It's like, it's almost like the Fey hobgoblin has been like corrupted by the material plane, and like now it's gone from being like, I will use the power of friendship and my bonds with people to like, oh shit, I can't look weak, or the boys will knife me in the back when I'm not looking.
Exactly. Yeah, there'll be a new head of the Legion by morning, if not. But then this is probably the distinguishing thing. The big distinguishing thing about these two. So for the hobgoblin in Volo's Guide, once you use this trait, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest, which is, that's fine. For this one, you can use this trait a number of times to equal your proficiency bonus and regain all expended uses on a long rest. Depending how many short rests you take during the day, this could differ. Whatever your play style is. If you're a party that does take a lot of short rests and stuff, that might make a difference. But I mean, early on, maybe taking 2 short rests a day or a short rest a day, you might end up using it twice or something like that. But I mean, like at 17th level, having 6 uses of that is pretty hefty. Like, it's 6 uses in a single fight as well. You can use that 6 times in a single fight, and there's nothing restricting you other than those full 6 uses.
Can you imagine you have like a paladin in that party as well, and you got the aura of protection? Like,
oh my god,
you're not failing a saving throw.
No, not at all.
Ever.
Could you imagine just I mean, realistically, 30 feet, that's a 60-foot diameter circle around you. Realistically, your party or most of your party are going to be within that circle most of the time. I mean, you're going to be working with at least a plus +3 or 4 almost all the time. And like you said, if you're a paladin, play a hobgoblin paladin, get your own bonus to all your saving throws.
Man.
And then just bust this out whenever you roll particularly low, and you're sorted for saving throws.
Man, I love that you went with that, because my mind went straight for like, this is like such a like Sailor Moon magical girl type. Like you're like,
I'm not familiar enough with Sailor Moon. I know what it is, but I'm not familiar enough with it.
It happens. You're watching Naruto. It happens a lot in Naruto as well. Sure, like I'm here, but I'll keep going because I'm fighting for my friends, and I need to protect my friends. I can't let them down. I will not give up here.
Like Naruto being like, I can't let Sakura. I almost said Sakura. I can't let Sakura cry.
Yeah.
Again, I won't be the reason she cries or whatever. I won't let her cry. Wait, is that or is that? No, sorry. I'm thinking of Full Metal. That's Full Metal. I'm thinking of. No. But there's something similar in that as well with Naruto, where he's like, no, I need to do this for my friends.
Yeah.
Because even though Sasuke has kicked my ass 8 times, he's still my friend, and I still want to do this for him.
Yeah, it's that, because I just immediately like, oh my god, this would be like a hilarious, like, you have like a goblin Sailor Moon team led by a hobgoblin of the Fae, and they're all in the like magical girl Sailor Moon outfits, going on adventures in the Feywild, stopping bad things from happening. Oh god.
But that's an ability that differs slightly, and personally I think is better with the fairy hobgoblin, the Fey hobgoblin. The next ability, called Gift of the Fae, is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You can use this trait to take the help action as a bonus action, and you can do it a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. Firstly, just want to throw in, I'm liking that they're changing a lot of the amount of times you can use something to match your proficiency bonus, because then it scales naturally with the character, which I really enjoy.
I really hope they do that with the Arcane Archer at some stage. That would be great.
Yeah, I absolutely. I'd really like that. And they probably will. I'm hoping they will. So then you regain all uses on a long rest, right? So it's a help action as a bonus action. That's really good. That gives a friend or an ally advantage.
You can actually choose. It says in there you can choose to take it as a bonus action or an action. So if you're a spellcaster and you have a bonus action spell you want to cast, like Thunderstep or Firestep, and because I think Firestep you can take someone with you, can't you? So like
yes.
So like if
you're I can't remember which
Thunderstep is the one that does damage. I think Firestep is the one where you can take someone with you. But like I just picked that out as because it specifically specifies that you have to use a bonus action to cast it. So like you could do bonus action, cast Firestep and ready that, and then your action could be the help action.
Mm-hmm.
Like you.
Well, the thing I think is that it's what they're saying here is that's from 3rd level onwards. Basically, it's the same ability, but from 3rd level onwards, you choose one of the below. Actually, each time you take the help action. Yeah, it says what do you use it as bonus action. I think the bonus action is the limited uses. If you chose to take the help action honestly, that's the way I read it.
I think giving you the choice gives you more uses of it. Like that gives you more it gives you more room to work in, like particularly like if you do go like a spellcaster class with this, or like even like Lug uses a ton of stuff, his bonus action, for an absolute ton of stuff. So like if I had taken this as my race instead of human, I could do whatever, like I could set my spear for a charge as the bonus action, and then like my action could be the help action to help someone else, or whatever any of these nutty things are. I think it just gives you like a lot of room to maneuver and like I think it allows for more possible combinations than if they were just like bonus action for you. So that the fact that you can choose, I think, is really, really good.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that you can choose, absolutely. It only counts towards your limited number of uses, though, if you do it as a bonus action. Because anyone can take the help action as an action, and that's any character can do that.
Yeah.
And so that's, like you said, there's a lot of versatility, because you can go, on this turn I want to cast Shield of Fate, which is bonus action, which means that I can use my action to use the help action here, and that's perfect. You get a versatility, and you only burn the bonus action uses because they're more advantageous. I guess you still get to attack and use your action and stuff.
Yeah, that's the one.
The thing of it is,
essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the thing of it is, and this is where it gets really, really broken, is that regardless of whether you just take the help action as normal, or whether you use one of these limited bonus action help actions, you can take one of 3 things each time you use it. Every single time you use it, you can take one of these things, and it's an additional effect. So the first one is Hospitality. You and the target of your help action each gain a number of temporary hit points equal to a d6 plus your proficiency bonus. That's, again, anytime. Okay. temp HP doesn't stack and stuff,
Yeah.
but there's nothing to stop you from standing in the center of a bunch of your allies and go, you get it this turn, you get it this turn, you get it this turn, and just keep looping it around to bump people out by 5, 6, 7 temp HP here and there constantly, you know? The next one is Passage. You and the target of your help action each increase your walking speed by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. That's not terribly broken, but that's a nice one, I think. Yeah. And then the last one is Spite.
I love this
and it's
one.
until the start of your next turn, the first time you or the target of your help action hits a creature with an attack roll, that creature has disadvantage on a next attack roll that it makes within the next minute. So it's not even within the next round or within the next turn, it's within the next minute. I know it's only one off and they'll take one swipe or whatever and then it's gone, but it's still disadvantage. And you can spam that because if you just keep using, again, you have multiple uses of the bonus action, but you can even just use your action every single turn to do this. And you're helping your ally get advantage with the help action plus one of these additional effects.
Yeah.
I don't see a reason why I would ever, in my goddamn life, play a Volo's Guide Hobgoblin when this is an option I could potentially have.
True. I suppose if you care more about, like, if you don't really care about the mechanical benefits, but you want the more like that kind of evil goblin flavor, like, because this is very clearly like at least a neutral hobgoblin.
At the very least, yeah. They're not terribly evil like the other ones are.
The entire of D&D Twitter seemed to explode with this idea when this was announced, but it also popped into my head. Rogue Inquisitive Hobgoblin of the Fae. Dear God.
Because you can do it as a bonus action anyway, and at 30 feet range, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
So broken. That's so broken.
That's really broken. And by the way, every single turn you're giving someone within again back to that fucking 60-foot size diameter circle that you're in. It's just you get a help action, so take advantage. Also take a d6 plus 3 or 4 hit points, and then you get it this turn, and you get it this turn, and I'm still using my action to fire a crossbow or a bow or whatever
and
at range.
Sneak attack as well.
That'd be a crazy powerful build for like as a support class.
I just had the dumbest idea, and it's called the Fey team, and it's it's like a goblin, a fairy, an owl folk. And a bunch of other side characters, and every week they travel around in a magic wagon solving different crimes in the Feywild.
Are they Mystery Inc?
No, the Fey team.
Oh gotcha. Sorry, I missed that.
If you found that funny at home, thank you.
I noticed that you didn't you didn't mention the fourth and final member, and is this maybe because you're in the same mentality of it as I am?
I'm not mad about the rabbit folk. I find some of the wording of it very funny and entertaining.
I find some of the wording to be a bit weird, and also I feel like owl folk. I can make owl folk work in my world. I can't justify a floppy-eared rabbit running around. Now it does bring to mind. You'll know this and I won't. Right? The name of the character in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There is a
Yojimbo.
Is it Yojimbo? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's like a master samurai rabbit, and I could, if you want to play that could be this is how you do it. But other than that, I don't see rabbit folk fitting into my world. So it seems silly. And that's just me. Maybe that's just me.
I just found it funny that rabbit folk and owl folk would both be included in the thing. Because do owl folk eat rabbit folk? Because owls eat rabbits.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah, especially if you pick your size medium.
Yeah, look.
Actually, rabbit folk can be small as well. A choice. So you could totally be a medium owl folk and a small rabbit folk and perch down and just eat them and fly off.
Yeah. Like, do the owl folk just eat all the fairies as well? No.
Yeah, I feel like maybe that's a thing. I think the owl folk are cannibals.
This is like asking why do all the animals live together in Zootopia. I think we're kind of getting that way into it. It's kind of super. Like we are shitting on the rabbit folk a little bit. To give you an idea, just the way that it's the bounding across the wilds, rabbit folk from the Feywild embody a spirit of freedom and travel. They're bipedal with the characteristic long feet of the animal they resemble and fur in a variety of colours. They share keen senses, powerful legs, and are full of energy like a wound-up spring. Rabbit folk are blessed with a little fey luck, and they often find themselves in a few fortunate feet away from dangers during adventures. Now, the two of us are just saying neither of us particularly are like drawn in by this. If you're into this and you like this, no fucking judgment from us. Go play your game and have fun.
No, I'll judge you.
But what I will say is I actually like some of the abilities that they get. There's two.
There's one in particular.
There's two I like. There's two I really like. One, I'd say is at least 50% of the reason I like it is because of the name. I think
It's a hair trigger.
Yeah, hair trigger.
I said that I gotta love that pun, hair trigger.
H-A-R-E.
H-A-R-E.
It's actually really good though. It lets you add your
It's
proficiency
really good,
bonus to your initiative rolls.
Which, I mean, regardless of what class you're playing, that's awesome because you're buffing out you're buffing that out. Here's the thing, right? And this is what stood out to me and what I thought of immediately. Play a rabbit folk swashbuckler rogue. You get your dex naturally on your initiative rolls. Then you get a bonus of your charisma. Then you get your proficiency bonus. I mean, that's potentially a proficiency or an initiative bonus. Sorry, of if you maxed out stats, you're looking at 16, a plus 16 to your initiative. You could be well into the 30s.
You're always first. It doesn't matter. You're always first.
Yeah, exactly. There'd be barely any point in rolling at that point.
Take alert then as well.
Or take alert. Oh my god, take alert, and you're on a 21 bonus, and then take lucky, because that technically an initiative roll is an ability check, and you can re-roll ability checks with lucky. So then, even if you roll a 1, you can be like, no, I'm just going to re-roll that with lucky, and you're going to get like fucking. You can hit the 40s with that.
It's so stupid. But like I really like it. The name makes me laugh. I'll admit at least 50% of the way I like it is the name makes me laugh. But it is also like mechanically really good, and it did jump out to me because I do DM for a swashbuckler, and him getting to add his charisma to his initiative. A lot of the time he's the first one up, particularly because that's a dex class as well. But yeah, do you want to take the other one, which I'm pretty sure the other one you're going to talk about here.
Oh well, I had a couple things that jumped out at me.
By all means, man, take it away.
Well, okay.
Considering we did just shit on it for about 5 minutes.
It's not terrible. So basically, your speed is 30. You get the hair trigger thing, which is really, really cool. That's like, because again, no matter what class, everyone wants higher initiative. Everyone wants higher initiative. They have what's that? Leporine,
I think.
Yeah. Proficiency in perception. I almost always take proficiency in perception. Almost always, because I like my characters to be aware of what's going on, so people can't get the drop on me. But then the next one is this one isn't actually bad. I kind of like this. This is lucky footwork.
I really like this one actually. This is the highlight of the entire race for me. Is this one?
Yeah, it's really, really good. So whenever you fail a dex saving throw, you can use your reaction to roll a d4 and add it to the result, potentially turning the failure into a success. There's no limit on that. Every single time, as long as you have a reaction in that turn, you can just choose to roll a d4 on top of whatever dex save you're making. That's really, really good. Now, a d4 isn't huge, but that's the potential. That's the difference between making a dex save and not making a dex save.
Hell yeah.
That's a really, really good ability. Along with the hair trigger thing, I think make for a very good. Obviously, I guess the kind of theme is that rabbits are always aware of their surroundings and quick to get out of danger.
I mean, it's a pun on the lucky rabbit's foot as well.
Oh no, I got that. Yeah.
Sorry, I was
it's called lucky footwork, man. Give me some credit.
I know.
I mean, like, it's kind of about. I feel like rabbits are very quick to, if they're ever out grazing or whatever. If a rabbit hears a noise, they're right back into the burrow, And I feel like that sense of them avoiding danger at all costs, between the hair trigger, the perception skill, and the lucky footwork, I feel like the three of those are like, this is a super perceptive, super quick to avoid danger or get himself out of trouble kind of race, and I like it. It's not the worst thing. Okay, the next ability I have qualms with. Qualms is the word I've chosen.
How very diplomatic of you.
Yeah, so the next one's called Rabbit Hop. Naturally, rabbits jumping, all that.
Not bunny hop?
Not bunny hop, no, it's Rabbit Hop. Once during each of your turns, when you walk at least 5 feet, you can hop, rolling a d12 and moving that many feet in a direction of your choice. This extra distance doesn't cost movement, but you can hop only if your speed isn't 0. Okay, so that just for that last line, you can hop only if your speed isn't 0. That's to avoid you hopping away from a grapple.
Yeah,
that's fine. That makes sense. I get why that line's there. Why a d12? I know. Mechanically,
because there's 12 inches in a foot. Maybe.
But
I feel like I just broke you with that.
wait, what? 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 Is this another rabbit foot joke? Are you making a rabbit foot joke here?
No,
or?
like I know. I was just throwing a guess out there. Maybe it's because they're 12 inches in a foot.
Yeah, but it's 12 feet you can move. But anytime you like any
I'm not saying it makes
increment,
sense, right? I'm just throwing
okay.
shit out there.
because all movement in D&D is incremental by 5 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So you could roll a d12, but I mean if you get a 12, that's just going to round down to a 10 anyway. It's basically telling you that once on each of your turns, as long as you move 5 feet, you can then move an additional up to 10 feet. It might as well just give you extra movement. It's a weird. It's just worded very strangely because it's saying you can jump, right? Mm. I mean, okay, for the very rare occasion that you're in combat or something like that, and you need to run and jump over a gorge or something like that, this will potentially do it. However, it only doesn't cost movement if that jump is less than 10 feet or 10 feet or less. Because otherwise you'll have to use your strength mod or your your strength score to determine how far you can move, and you need to move 10 feet for that, and it's a whole other mechanic, in which case it does use your movement. I just feel this is a really weird thing I don't see myself ever using all that often. Am I wrong on that? Do you see a way that this is useful? Or
you could use it in conjunction with a long jump, because the what they ask you to do for a long jump is you need to move at least 10 feet. It just says move at least 10 feet in a single direction before you take the jump. So you could do 5 feet move, rabbit hop another 10, and then long jump your strength score.
Could you use it in conjunction with the same jump? So if you move 10 feet and then jump,
it's not counted as a jump, it's movement. So like your rabbit hop, so once during each of your turns and you walk at least 5 feet, so you go 5 feet, you can hop, you roll a d12. Let's say you get a 12, you round that down to a 10, so you move another 10 feet. So you've now covered 15 feet in a straight line in your turn, which covers what you need to do a long jump. So once you finish that, you can literally go like step, hop, long jump.
Okay. Oh, okay. So are you kind of saying that the potential 10 feet you get from this could be the 10 feet you use for a then long jump?
Yeah, like what I'm saying, like that's what I'm saying. You can literally do like an Olympics style hop, skip, and a jump.
yeah, okay.
Like, because you can run 5 feet, hop 10, and then you've covered 15, and when you land off the hop, boom, another. Say you've 20 strength, you just jump another 20 feet.
And the kind of I suppose the good thing there is that
also just the idea of like a super hench rabbit just bounding across the battlefield after someone is absolutely
Incredible Hulk style, where you're just bouncing between things.
Yeah, but
in that case I can see it. I can see it there because technically you moved 10 feet, which is the only requirement for a long jump. You need to move at least 10 feet, and if you do this hop and you roll a 10, 11, or 12. Maybe
you can roll 5 and upwards on the dice. Will get you over the 10 feet for the long jump. Anything over 5 is a bonus.
Well, yes, because as long as you get a 5.
Because you have to move 5 feet first, and then you can hop. So you could literally go like, I move 1 step forward, that covers me for the hop, and then I roll. Say you get a 5 on your d12. All right, I hop another 5 feet. That's 10 feet in a direction covered. Then I'm long jumping with my 20 strength score, another 20. So you can cover 30 feet without only costing you 20 feet of movement.
So here's an alternative. You could, because again, I feel the wording is very complex, and it's a bit strange. And a d12 makes no sense because again, you can't jump 12 feet. You can jump 10. You can jump 5. You can't jump 12 feet. Alternative. What if you just said that for the purposes of long jumps and high jumps, rabbit folk get an extra 5 feet high on high jumps and an extra 10 feet long on long jumps.
Yeah, I do think there's definitely cleaner ways you could do it, but I think that like you could still get some value out of it. I think it's more of a, but I think it isn't lucky footwork. Like, I'll put it that way.
Yeah, or hair trigger for that matter. Yeah, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. It's just a bit wordy and kind of convoluted, and where I feel like I said, if you just say, hey, whenever this particular race of rabbit folk make a high jump, they get a bonus of 5 feet to the height. Whenever they do a long jump, they get a bonus of 10, because then you kind of incorporate the fact that rabbits hop and jump places and stuff. but it's not quite as broken as saying they get double, like casting the jump spell on themselves at will or something like that. That'd be very broken.
That'd be crazy. But cool. That's pretty much everything we've gone through there in the actual Feyfolk stuff. There's a lot of like, I think it's cool that they're doing it. I also think this definitely signals that we're going to get a Fey book pretty soon.
Which I've been saying for fucking I don't want to be the guy who's like, I've been saying this all along, but I have. But I mean I was saying we've never actually done a proper Fey adventure.
It makes sense as well after Tasha's Cauldron.
Do the oh yeah, definitely, yeah. Actually, there's a lot of Fey based subclasses and stuff in that, so yeah, totally. You could do. It would make sense to kind of hand people that and be like, here, you can make characters that are Fey based, and then do an actual Fey arc. Because I said it, I don't know if I said it on the podcast, and I said it at some point. I really want a book that breaks down the different courts. It probably in the same way that of what we're going to get now with Van Richten's guide in terms of the Shadowfell. I would like a similar. Well, but I would like a similar thing for the Feywild, where it's like, here's the Seelie and the Unsealed Court, and here's how to do, and here's the various Archfey that you might run into or encounter. And if you're a patron of this particular Archfey, you don't have to be a warlock necessarily, but maybe if you get a patronage of this Archfey, maybe they give you these boons in the same way you can get those dark boons or whatever we talked about.
Yeah, the dark
2
gifts.
weeks ago.
Yeah, there's godly boons and Theros and dark gifts are coming out with Van Richten's.
So maybe you could do a similar Fey boons or Fey gifts thing.
Fey blessing
for this,
The Fey are known for blessings and curses, so you could do both.
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool. Again, I don't hate the rabbit foot that much. I give it a lot. It's just more the idea of a rabbit person I don't see fitting in my world. That's just me. Mechanically, they're actually pretty good, bar the kind of weird nature of the last ability. But other than that, Hair Trigger, Leporine Senses, and Lucky Footwork are 3 solid features for any race,
And like, I'd imagine you could use these with the origin editor thing as well, from Tasha's. Like, so if you don't like, you can probably swap a lot of these things out, move things around, that kind of thing.
Yeah, potentially.
And you could even create your own origin if you like. You just basically actually just using more to add to if you wanted to do like a custom homebrew race, like Badger Folk or something.
Okay, is it weird that I'm like rabbit folk? That's dumb, but badger folk.
Is it because badgers are like walking TV factories?
Well, it's more so because badgers are. Have you ever played? Is it? I want to say it's Far Cry 4. So it's based in like.
Or is it because honey badgers would fucking go after anything?
That's what it was. They're honey badgers. So like you can run into tigers and all these other really dangerous animals in that, but so help you if a honey badger comes after you, because they move so fast and they're so small you can't shoot them. But then they also fuck you up immensely because they're so savage. Honey badgers are lethal.
They go for the balls as well. They go right for the balls.
They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing.
Anyway, but let's moving away from testicular tales.
Speaking of balls, Martin, what's our next topic?
A load of bollocks. No,
hey.
I thought it'd be after we've gone through that. I thought it's probably about time that we actually did get down to talking about like character creation, and I thought it'd be cool if we had a bit of a chat about like how do we actually approach character creation. This was requested by someone who plays in my group, Steve, my rogue, and he tweeted us on Twitter and asked us to go through character creation because it's something that only happens. That's what he said was it's something that only happens once, but it can have very, very significant effects on your character for the entire way through, from 1 to 20, and a lot of time it is pretty quickly covered over. So he was thinking it might be good. He would enjoy hearing us kind of talk a bit about that. So I kind of wrote down some quick notes just about how I kind of approach things first, and I thought we could kind of go back and forth about how exactly we do it. So like when I'm approaching character creation, a lot of the time I'll usually have a root of an idea. Either it'll be I will have seen something in a show or a book or a game that I was like, that would make a really cool X, and I'm going to like translate this idea into D&D. Or other times I will see a specific D&D class or subclass that will come up and be like, oh, I need to play this is the character I make around it. What about you?
I'm kind of in a similar boat. A lot of my ideas come from that. Like I'll see a person or a thing in some sort of show or book or game or something like that, and I'll think to myself, how can I adapt that, or how can I make that into a character in D&D? Because I think it might be very interesting. that's one thing I do. Two things I do that I think kind of encompass a lot of my character creation. One is that and it's less relevant now because we don't tie. It's still kind of relevant, but it's less relevant just because we don't tie stats to races anymore. But I used to like playing against type.
Yeah.
Which is to say, for those who don't know, when you play against type, you basically pick a race that gets bonuses that don't necessarily go towards your class. So, for example, you could play a Goliath Barbarian Wizard, and you get bonuses to Strength and Con. The Con would help; the Strength wouldn't necessarily help a Wizard. So, it's just kind of it's a little extra challenge, but I like it because it's unusual. It kind of breaks molds. And typically, you think of a human or elf wizard, and they're scrawny and they have a pointy hat. But what if you just had this like wizard that had a bunch of shit on tattoos? And he was muscular as hell. Yeah, and he did like a Full Metal Alchemist thing where he okay, you haven't seen Full Metal. There's a character in Full Metal.
I'm familiar enough with it. Is it Scar?
Do you know Scar?
Yeah.
So like, what if you had a thing where like you like all your tattoos on your arms were like your way of inscribing spells on yourself, and then you do a full on like Full Metal clap thing to activate your magic, and you're absolutely ripped just to boot as well.
You might as well. I was like trying to stop myself from laughing while you were talking about it. It's only because literally yesterday I came across a meme that was like this really shredded wizard casting a lightning bolt out, and like there was someone like cowering beside him, and it was like, shut up, let's go do wizard stuff and get buffed.
I always think of that one. It's styled like really old fashioned D&D, like from the 80s and stuff. The kind of artwork from there. And it's a wizard. And he's got the hat, and he's got like just the lower robes, but his chest is on show, and he's absolutely shredded. And he's like, I cast punch.
Yeah, muscle wizard casts fist.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Go on. You were talking about playing against type.
Oh yeah, but that's just one thing I like to do because I feel like you get really interesting, weird results when you play against type. When you try to, you don't do a tip like you do a Wood Elf Ranger, which is like a good build, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you decide to go again, half orc rogue, half orcs are big and bulky. But what if you had one that's actually really quiet and sneaky as well? That could be just really, really awesome, you know. That's one thing I do. Another thing I do, I'm blanking on at the moment. What I do, I play against type, and there was something. Oh no, lost it again. You go.
Okay.
My mind is generally gone. I forgot the second point I was going to make.
This is why I wrote notes, because I knew that would happen to me if I started thinking about it, because I'll just get caught up in like characters I've made before.
It happens to me all the time, and I never learn my lesson.
Yeah, so like I'll normally start with a concept. Like it'll either be like a thing I've seen that I want to emulate in D&D, or like, oh, that would make a really cool combo. It could be this and this, and that would be really cool, and we could do my own spin on that kind of a tale. Or it'll be like when you said you were starting a game, I saw Vengeance Paladin as a subclass for Paladin, and I went, Conor, I'm playing a Demon Slayer Vengeance Paladin. I was like, has to be done, and that was awesome, and I got to do fulfill that whole thing. I think I'd like to try and think about it as like either like what kind of flavor do I want to have my character to have, or what kind of a role do I see that character playing. And I find that can often influence a lot of your mechanical decisions as well, in terms of like classes and stuff like that, or alignment, or like, although alignment isn't really a thing we stick super close to, but like specifically classes, like if you're like, okay, I want to be like an open, warm, friendly kind of person, you might want to be like a healer, or like the face of the group, and you can be like, okay, so if I'm going to play the healer, then I'll be looking down like the cleric group. Maybe if I want to play face, something with charisma, maybe like a rogue, or maybe like a rogue with high persuasion, or just your bard. Actually, how did I not go to bard first? Or like your bard, or your sorcerer, or your paladin that's going to have high charisma to kind of do with that. And that's kind of the way I kind of build from blocks up. I usually start like with an idea, and then I will just like pile stuff on it until the snowball is ready to roll downhill.
I can't remember if this is the point I was going to make or not, but it's something similar I do. I typically tend to follow a theme with a character as well. I won't always do the most optimal build for the character, but I will take feats and stats and spells and stuff like that I feel capture a certain thing. So for example, I've been thinking for a long time about playing a storm sorcerer of some kind. I don't know what race or anything yet, but I just like the class. I think it's really cool. But that's because I really like that storm theme. The idea that you control wind and rain and lightning and thunder. If I was to play that build, I would kind of purposely pigeonhole myself, and I would only take wind, lightning, and thunder-based spells. I purposely wouldn't take fire, maybe cold. You could argue for cold,
totally.
But I purposely wouldn't take fire or acid or something, even though sorcerers can do all that, because I like the idea of staying on a theme or staying kind of within a realm of something, you know.
Yeah. And then you can
that's an idea for you.
You can take the feat then that makes your lightning damage go through lightning resistance.
Exactly, yeah. If someone has resistance, you can still bypass that. I would, and I would. I also have another idea where I had another sorcerer. That was he's what's it called? Divine Soul, Divine Soul sorcerer. And I would take only radiant. I take radiant stuff from the cleric spell list, and I would take like fire stuff. And I had this idea of a guy who's like a bit of a fanatic, where he quite literally tries to burn the sin out of people.
Ooh, that's very Ghost Rider. That's very Ghost Rider.
Yeah, oh yeah, very very much so.
I like
but
that
he's
a
like
lot. That's his penance there, like, cause he burns burns your soul based on the sins you've committed and the guilt that you feel. It's why it doesn't work on the Punisher. It doesn't work on the Punisher thing because he doesn't feel bad about anything he's done to anyone.
That's really cool. I didn't know that. But that's a character I've had in my back pocket for a long time. I was actually planning on using him in a campaign ages back. He was a cleric of light originally. And then of course they released Divine Soul Sorcerer, and I'm like, oh, I can be a charisma based character but also have all the spells from this entirely other class. Yeah, brilliant, I'll do that. But yeah, and again, I would do the same thing. I would pick maybe just radiant and fire spells, and then I would take the same feat, but I would kind of stay on brand because I like the idea of that. I purposely try to not make jack of all trades characters because, you know, everyone has their, we talked about this before, everyone has their role in the party.
Totally.
And you don't want to be the guy with your finger in all the pies, you know.
Yeah, you don't want to be a one-man party.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't want to be. I don't know. Rogue is a good example because rogues get out bards even because they get an actual ability. Yeah, they get a lot of skills. They get a lot of expertise. Bards actually get an ability called Jack of all trades.
Yep.
So they get a lot of things where they could potentially, you know, take part in a lot of different things or have input in a lot of different situations. But I feel like when you're playing at a table with a group of people, it's important to be like, I know my role. If I'm a bard, I'm the charismatic guy, and I'm the diplomat, I'm the liar, and maybe I'm a little bit sneaky on the side, and that's fine. I'm not going to be the guy physically forced. Even if I have great athletics, I'm not going to be the guy who's going to jump into the water to try and save I don't know, this person from drowning.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be the person who, even though maybe my religion is pretty decent, but maybe there's a cleric in the party. The cleric's got that. That's their job. I will maybe roll if I'm allowed to after they've already attempted it, but I know because I'm the bard, that's their job. You know, kind of understanding people's roles and stuff like that. And I purposely, like, I have a character who I'm playing at the moment named Renyolf. Renyolf has really, really bad dex. Actually, he's bad stats all around. His dex is like flat. His charisma is a 7.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So he is, and the thing is, I know I'm not the charismatic person. Which is actually weird because I'm playing in a group where almost everybody, actually, I'm pretty sure everyone else hasn't really played that much before ever, and I'm the most experienced person. So you would kind of think, oh, by default, you'd probably end up pushing the party and doing all this. I'm like, nope, I barely talk because my character has 7 charisma. Yeah. I have very little input, even though I'm sitting there going, I know what we should do right now. And we should do this. But Renyolf wouldn't say that because Renyolf is basically a mute.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to bring up as well during character creation is it's not necessarily applied to, but it's a good rule to stick by is with D&D. Try to think not what you would do, but what your character would do. A perfect example of this would be like at the end of our session last week, or the week before, sorry, we found an unfinished teleportation circle. Now, some of the party were absolutely mad because we had the means to finish it. Some of the party were absolutely mad to finish it and find out where it went. And Martin, the person Martin, was dying to know where that went. I so badly wanted to know where that went. But Lug doesn't like magic in general. He's suspicious of it. And specifically this weird, like, eldritch, telepathic, mind flayer, old god magic that we've been dealing with recently. Really kind of skeeves him out. So, like, as much as I wanted to go and find out where that fucking magic gate went, Lug wasn't having any of it. So I think it's a good thing to be like, be aware of like the kind of character you're creating and how to express those traits.
That was the general consensus, I think, for the whole party. Everyone was like, "Oh, mystery portal! I want to go in the mystery portal," but no one thought their characters would actually make that decision. You're down the Underdark. You've been down there for like a week. You're tired. You've just fought a Beholder. You're not at full strength. All this other stuff. I mean, as players in a game, fuck yeah, I'm going to go into the next room and find out what it is. But as characters who need to be concerned with their own survival.
If this was a video game, I would have finished the circle.
I would have quick saved and I would have got it.
I will quick save. Cool. But yeah, that's actually kind of randomly sidelong into a point that I had that I thought was a good thing, and it's something I try to do if I'm like not sure of how to build a character. If I'm like, so if you already have a concept, say you want to be like. So you want to be like someone who's not like super emotionally open, but is like trying to be better. I think like a really good point to look at, and I'm just giving that as an example, would be like look at like Kratos from the most recent God of War, where he's so cold at the start, but the whole story is a progression of his character, and like even though for a large part of the game he's not even comfortable like showing like physical affection. He struggles to like put his hand on his son's shoulder and be like, good job. I think
he barely speaks for the first I'd say couple 2 or 3 hours of the game. Like,
boy.
Yeah, that's all he says, or he'll just go like, come on, or he'll give a command. He rarely talks for the sake of talking, and then by the end of the game he's talking to his son and having a conversation instead of just telling his son what to do, which is it's a beautiful game.
Oh, it's a beautiful game. But aside from how brilliant that story is, what I'm kind of driving at is that like they express the fact that he is cold and closed off because of what happened to him previously, in his like physical actions and how he speaks to people and how he interacts with people. Like it's not like all this horrible shit has happened and he said like, hey guys, how's it going? My name's Kratos. What can I do for you? He's like, leave my home, leave me alone.
Does Kratos work in a call center? Does he?
I don't know, maybe.
Hi, my name is Kratos. I'll be your customer service assistant today. How can I help?
No, you want disemboweling. This is slaying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'll transfer you. Let me put you on hold for just one moment. Thank you very much.
The call music is but what I mean is like if you're going to go for a specific like character archetype, look for character archetypes that in fiction you enjoy, or even actual just people that you know from like celebrities and stuff that are like that, and see how. Fiction's probably easier to do because they're constructed characters, but see how like their characters express through their actions and try and follow that through when you create a character is what I get. It's probably the less long-winded way of saying it.
Yeah, there's another thing actually just came to mind there when you were saying that. Don't feel, or do, it's entirely up to you, but your statistics when you're making your character don't necessarily have to inform who you play in terms of role play. I mean, don't get me wrong. If your character has like an 11 strength, you're not going to be the person lifting boulders and stuff like that. And maybe for Dex as well, you're not going to be the particularly sneaky person. But in terms of like charisma, wisdom, intelligence, just because you have a low int stat doesn't mean your character is walking around, banging a frying pan against his head like an idiot.
Yeah.
You can still play a character who's reasonable and sensible, but just like for me, charisma has always meant that you're book smart, that you've read a lot of books, or but that doesn't necessarily. Sorry,
intelligence. You said charisma means charisma means you're book smart.
No, sorry. Intelligence, yes, intelligence. Intelligence, is definitely that you are book smart and you're well read. It doesn't mean that you're the most sensible person, though. For me, that's wisdom. Wisdom is the sensible, the common sense kind of stat. But even then, you could have a low wisdom, but still be a reasonable person. Just because you have a low wisdom doesn't mean that you're going to do something really, really stupid. Like
just means you can be naive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and maybe I'm not saying you don't have to adhere strictly to them. It can be fun sometimes to lean into it. Like I said, I have a 7 for charisma with Renyov. Most of his conversations end with him going and just walking away. Someone will say something and he's either uncomfortable or he doesn't know how to respond to that, and he'll just walk away.
So ridiculous. No, that's good. Conor, what would you say to a little character creation challenge so we can kind of show people how we work when we're trying to think of a thing?
What? A challenge? I was not prepared for this.
I know it's
Was that believable? Did you believe that? Will they buy it? I don't know.
Sold them down
Yes,
the river. Yeah.
this is the first time I am hearing about this.
Well, it doesn't matter if it's the first or the second or the millionth time you've heard about it, because it'll be the first time you hear what I've picked for you. So
that's true. We do not know what each other's what we're gonna pick.
So myself and Conor have picked a race, class, and background for each other, and we're gonna throw those three at the person, and then what we say we won't put a timer. We say
as fast as you can.
Build like the shell of or the frame of a character from these three things.
A little bit of backstory, maybe some ways that you would spec the character or something like that. But you don't have to go into massive detail. But yeah,
do you want to go first or will I?
You're the host.
Okay, I'll go first though. So Conor, your race is half orc.
Okay.
I'm going to leave the class to the last because it'll be funny. Your background is charlatan.
Okay.
You can choose either the standard one or the Baldur's Gate one. I'll leave that up to you. And your class is wizard.
Wizard, charlatan, half orc. Okay. So he is. First of all, he's going to be. He's going to be an evocation wizard,
okay.
Right? And he worked as an accountant for the mob.
Oh, right? I love it.
He was the guy cooking the books. So he's a smart guy. He gets numbers, he gets math and all that kind of stuff, So when he eventually came across some magical books and stuff like that, spell books, he looked at them. He's like, hey, I get the math. I get the calculations required to cast these spells and all that. Started fooling around with it when he was young and still kind of just up and coming in the mob. And then when he became an adult, he was a full-fledged wizard. He studied privately by himself, and now he's like an enforcer for the mob. And he's the guy he brings in when it's like I need you to give me the money because I have the books. I got the books right here. Look, you owe us this much for your what's it called when you pay protection racket. Yeah. So you owe us this much gold for your protection racket, and if you don't, fire in the hand. If you don't pay, this is going to happen. And then if someone doesn't pay, it's a fireball through their window.
I like it.
So he's he is the accountant / enforcer for the mob, half orc, and his name is Grunt.
Grunt. Oh, I like it.
Yeah. His name is Grunt. He's and he doesn't actually he grew up on the streets, so he doesn't have a real name. That's just a nickname people gave him because he's just a little grunt. That's all he is.
Grunt
and he's kept it.
Name as well. Grunt. I like it.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I like it. It also implies he was small and he's younger. He was the runt as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So he was just this little guy. They brought him in. He could write, which is not everyone on the streets can do that. So they're like, look, kid, we'll put you in charge of doing the books, all right? And he grew up doing that. And then from there became the one of the enforcers because he like I said, some books came across his table. They were spell books, and he took it from there.
Very cool. All right, hit me your best shot.
Okay. My notes. Okay, so I got. Okay, so first of all, I'm gonna go for the race. Race is lizard folk.
Ooh, I like lizard folk.
All right. Your background is shipwright.
Cool.
And your class is artificer.
Oh man, I already got a great idea for this. So, do you know the way there are those marine iguanas that live on rocks and dive into the ocean?
In the Galapagos. Yeah.
Straight away when you said lizard folk shipwright, that's immediately what came to my mind. He lives on a tropical island where he lives out on the rocks and the shoals, and people bring their ships in to be repaired by this specialty organization of lizard folk, noted shipwrights, and said the class was an artificer, correct?
Yeah.
So one day this what would be a good lizard folk name? Salazar,
like it, yeah.
One day Salazar is working on is working on a ship from we'd say Eberron or something like that.
Cool, yeah.
And while he's cleaning it up, a piece of it falls off overboard and lands in front of me. It's like an arcane core or something like that. And after fixing the ship, he kind of stows that away, and he spends the next week or so just tinkering with it, working on it, and then eventually kind of uses his money from making shipwright stuff to gather more and more resources, and eventually makes a whole mechanical helper for himself. That's this like mechanical spider that climbs up the rigging and fixes it for him, so he doesn't have to climb up the rigging of the ship.
Oh, I love that. Oh, and so he's what's it called? What's the subclass of artificer where you get the
battlesmith?
Battlesmith. So he's a battlesmith.
I guess I just thought the idea of like a robot spider to help you fix like tall riggings of ships would be a cool idea.
I do like that. That's really, really cool. I love the idea of there being like just lizard folk. That I love the Galapagos marine iguana thing. That's really, really cool. We were only talking about a while ago about having varying species of lizard or whatever inspire your lizard folk.
I'll be honest,
that's really, really cool.
It's because so when you said lizard, for some reason you said lizard folk, I just immediately thought Godzilla. And then it's terrible, but I know the 90s Godzilla, or Zilla as it's actually known, was based off of the marine iguanas from the Galapagos Islands. So when you said that, I was like, oh, that like the image of them on the rocks is already in my head. And then you said they were shipwrights, those turned into humanoid lizards chilling out in the rocks between their ships while a ship is in the background waiting to be fixed. And I like the idea of
this little community of lizard folk that live on a tropical island, but it's not like maybe a popular trading route. Yeah. So ships know to come in if they get hit by a storm or whatever. They know to come in because these local people will do decent repairs for a cheap enough price.
Yeah, it's like a small island off the coast of like a major port, and like they take the excess like shipwright work that the port on the mainland can't.
I like that. I like that a lot. We need to play Salazar and Grunt in a party.
Oh my god, yes. But yeah, that was my best one. Oh god, those would be so fun already.
I'm sorry. I'm impressed by both of us right now because those are great character concepts right there.
Yeah, sorry. I guess we're pretty good and we're forced to improvise a bit.
Improv is one of the best skills you need in D&D.
Oh god, it's so unnecessary. But there's one character concept that I have, and you know what I mean, like it's one I'm keeping in the background. I think it's going to be my first full spellcaster that I ever play. I've talked to you about it before, but I think it'd be a fun one. So it was such a stupid idea so it'd be a moon druid, right?
Okay.
Circle of the Moon druid, so you can change it to all the animals and the elementals and all that stuff as you level. And like the normal, I was trying to think of like what spellcaster. Because normally I prefer like martial or martial and spellcasting. So I was like, what would make me play a spellcaster? And I was like, do you know what, druids are really cool. Like turning into animals is really cool. You've lots of spells. If you go moon druid, you can turn into like a fire elemental and call down lightning on someone. Like that's just so cool. I was like, okay, yeah, I'd probably play a druid. And I was like, what way would I like to play a druid? And then like moon druid, your thing like normally is almost like a Pokemon style adventure where you're going out to see all of these animals and become the best druid at the best wild shape or ever. And I was like I want to learn lots of wild shapes, so I want to do it a slightly different way. I was like, oh, what if I did like a Steve Irwin Circle of the Moon druid who just wants to go out and wants to find the last Tarrasque and preserve it, and for conservation reasons, because you can't let this species die out.
That'd be a really I love that, because I've said this before. I love druids, but I find it so difficult to break the mold of I'm a hippie elf living in the forest, and you know I wear furs and have twigs sticking out of my hair and stuff. I find it so difficult to break that mold. That's a really good take on them. The idea of being someone who is what you call them?
What's someone who's?
Yeah, there's not a word for someone who studies animals and stuff like that. Zoologist, yeah. So you're like you could almost be a zoologist. Take like a scholar background or something like that.
No, like but like full, really I would play it like full on Steve Irwin druid. Like the party gets attacked by a wyvern, and like, oh yeah, it's a wyvern, isn't she a beauty?
And there's this huge like head is coming up and snapping at you, and you're like, oh, she's a little bit violent.
I get like the barb whipped into my stomach, and I'm like, can you see this here? She's pumping loads of venom into me. Fascinating.
That'd be really, really good. I'd love that.
Well, first time I play a spellcaster.
I look forward to it. You mentioned that having the spider. I love the idea of the spider you mentioned for Salazar going up and fixing the rigging and stuff like that, because I love the idea of having like a spool of rope instead of
it's steel wire.
Yeah. So instead of steel wire or instead of like web, it's just rope, and then if they need to, they'll climb up and they'll tie the rope, and then they'll make more lashings or repair things using the spool of rope they have. But I had a similar concept for I don't know what race. I think I was thinking of dwarf or something like that, but I hadn't the character fully sussed out in my head. But someone who was a captain of a ship, but they were the captain, but they didn't actually steer the ship. They were a battlesmith, and then their steel defender was the helmsman. So they would give commands to the steel defender, and they could be down on anywhere else on the deck doing whatever they need to, and they'd be yell up to the steel defender, and it looks like a person. It's shaped like a human, and it's kind of like how'd you put it? Yeah, you know, like in Solo. Have you seen Solo? Okay.
I heard it was pretty trash, so I kind of avoided it.
It's an amazing movie, and I'll die on that hill. It's a really, really good movie. The biggest part it fails on is just that it does way too much fan service, and it tries to go, hey, remember that time you heard this one minor thing about Han Solo? Well, here's the origin of that. And you're like, I didn't need to know. You could have just, okay, fine. And like, honestly, if it wasn't a Han Solo movie, it would just be a great Star Wars film, because it'd just be a fun romp through the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's not what this podcast is about. But yeah, basically, like almost like there's basically Lando Calrissian is in the movie. He has a Phoebe Waller-Bridge plays a droid, his droid in it, and she's his co-pilot. And I kind of got the idea from that, the idea of having this droid that is your co-pilot, and you're the captain, and you could be given the commands and all that stuff. But your helmsman is your droid, or your what's it called, the steel defender that follows you around.
Oh yeah, when you said that as well, I thought I've only seen like 2 episodes of The Mandalorian, the first 2 episodes, but it's the one, you know, when he goes into the gunfight and there's that like really old rusty looking droid, and it's like like
it's just shooting off in all directions.
I was really like, that's an artificer in the steel defender right there.
Yeah, totally, yeah. And again, that'd be like the ideal kind of. I think that'd be really, really cool. I thought more, not so much on a boat, but on like an airship for me. Just in sticking with the flying Millennium Falcon theme and all that.
Really good idea as well. The spider that Salazar has, it collapses down and like attaches on over his shoulders like a backpack when it's not up in riggings.
That'd be really cool. Yeah. Oh.
I'd imagine it'd look kind of like, you know, the replicators or the replicants from Stargate.
Replicants. Funny you mentioned that, because I've been. Yes, right. Yes, I've been watching tons of stuff from Stargate recently, because I haven't watched it in years. And I came across a couple of clips on YouTube, and now my entire YouTube suggested feed is just clips from Stargate SG-1, and some from Atlantis as well. And I'm like, oh man, they were such damn good shows.
Atlantis was great. I loved Atlantis.
Atlantis was really, really great. Atlantis got I love SG-1. Atlantis was, I would say, equally
Atlantis
as good.
Atlantis has Babi Jason Momoa.
People don't fucking know this. People are like, oh, look, it's Khal Drogo. No, man. No, motherfucker. It's Ronan Dex. That's Ronan Dex you're talking about. He had a sword
His
and a
last
trench
name
coat.
was Dex as well. Jesus.
Yeah. He had a sword and a trench coat and a beard and dreadlocks. And then he had this...
everywhere.
Knives everywhere. And he had a revolver style... There's a character build for you. Yeah. He had a revolver style red energy pistol.
Oh, he would be a really good blood hunter.
That'd be really cool, actually. Mm-hmm. Oh, there's an extra build.
You could infuse your gun with your Crimson Red,
and that's the red. So the fire damage is the red from it. Yeah. Oh, I do love Stargate, and people don't know though. Everyone's like, nah, he's Khal Drogo. He'll always be Ronan Dex to me. Thank you very much.
I think it's the thing. Like once you start playing D&D for long enough, every time you see someone cool in anything, you're like, oh, they'd be like that's definitely like a conquest paladin. Like, ooh.
Well, that's everything I do,
yeah.
man. I'm even like, I've started watching. Oh, actually, okay. I started watching Naruto. You know this.
Mm-hmm.
I've been watching for a while now. Every time I see a character, I'm like, oh, I'm like, that character could be built this way, or you could do this, or you play this type of monk, or play this type of rogue, or whatever. If I was to play Shikamaru, I do a shadow. I do a shadow monk, but I'd mix in some wizard in there because he's really, really smart. I'd mix in some wizard, and I'd take spells like hold person, so that you could do essentially you could flavor it that you're doing the shadow hold, but it's a hold person spell, and you could do tons of stuff like that to make the character really, really cool.
Rackley and White Guy are very obviously way of the open hand monk.
Oh yeah, and nothing but just straight 20 levels way of the open hand monk. So I mean, that's pretty much what I do the whole time. That's again, we're talking about character development or character creation. Mm-hmm. I often get inspired by people or things I see in the world, in like other forms of media and stuff like that.
And it's totally fine to like copy characters, but I would say is just like put your own spin on them. Like if you want to be Batman, be Batman, but like don't do the full on. My parents were shot in an alley behind the theater when I was leaving, and my butler
or the
me.
voice.
Yeah.
You're out of Falcone's cage.
Oh god.
Anyway, yeah. So yeah, definitely put your own spin on it. Try to make the character your own. Try to meld or mash characters together as well. That character I talked to you about a while ago, about the sorcerer, the divine soul sorcerer. He started off as a cleric, and then he became a divine soul sorcerer because I like the idea of him being more charisma based. But then there's this other guy who is in Dragon Age 2. I can't remember his name. He's one of the wizards or one of the mages you get, and he has like. So the lore of Dragon Age is a bit weird. There is demons of good and bad things, but they're all kind of classed as demons.
Right.
So different vices and virtues that you can have. And this guy has what he thinks, I had to look it up again. It's been a long time since I played it. He has this demon that's in his head, but it's a demon of like what he thinks is justice, but it's actually like a vengeance demon. So he he'll kill bad people and stuff like that, and he feels like, well, they were criminals or they were murderers, so they had it coming. They kind of had it coming, But it's more about this demon, and his demon will just take over from time to time and just massacre people, and that kind of came into rolled into that character as well. I had this idea for something separate, and then it kind of rolled in this other thing where I might take like a couple levels into the divine warlock. To represent the bond that I have with this outer being or whatever.
Yeah, and I think. Sorry. No, go on. Okay. So what I was just gonna say is it's something. It's leading on from what you were saying and how like you essentially reshape the character to better suit what you like. You it's like basically like you do a second draft and you edit out what you don't like.
Definitely.
You refine the thing down. You can continue to do that past character creation. Once your character has been made, that doesn't like. If you make a character and that character stays the same at level 1 and is the same at level 20, I don't think you've gotten the full experience out of playing that character. You should try and have that character grow in some way, and the story should grow and should cause a change and effect like that. I think, and like I think that's where character creation can continue later on, in that like you can like if there is an area of your backstory that you have not fleshed out or explored, you can just have a chat with your DM and be like, hey, I'd really like to get into this is my idea for it, I think it could be a good idea. Like have a chat with them. Don't give them like, this is how this goes, this is how this goes, this is how this goes. This is an idea I have, a concept I have. Do you think we could do something like this? And let them run wild. The best example I can give of that is like Magneto from the X-Men. Phenomenal character. Shades of grey, really complex, but very much an enthralling character to watch. Just do whatever, good or bad, either way. One of the most interesting things about Magneto is that as a mutant, he's also a Holocaust survivor. So, like, as a mutant, he has seen the worst of what as he is a mutant who has also experienced what the worst humanity can do to each other is. So he comes at this idea of, no, we can't peacefully live with humans as mutants from that perspective, and that's such a good perspective. That wasn't added in until way after Magneto was made. That was written in by an entirely different writer who created Magneto. Like, that was added later. But now, if you think about Magneto and you see it in the movies now, that's so perfect. And, like, I think that's a good example of, like, you can retcon or fix things or just rearrange things as you go. Like, character creation is not the end, is I suppose what the point I'm trying to make is, like, make your character but continue to improve them as you go through.
Yeah, exactly. And I often like the idea of being open to taking different directions with a character, as in, like, for example, so Renylf, who I'm playing at the moment, Renylf actually died. We were not even level 3, we were level 2, and Renylf ended up dying. And actually, myself and another character both died in the same session. It was a grim session. But I talked it over with Gav and stuff, and we were talking about, like, Gav he's like, well, Renylf was like one of the characters I really enjoyed because I thought you had a really cool backstory and I kind of wanted to explore that. And then we kind of talked about it and we kind of decided, right, maybe there's a way he can come back, but it's not going to be super, it's not going to be a case of, there'll be a cost, basically, is what I'm trying to say. There'll be a cost of him coming back. He won't just be able to come back and be fine and dandy. There's a cost to this. And I won't go into too much because I'm pretty sure Irene listens to the podcast. one of my favorite things about Gavin's game is how much Irene guesses and tries to figure out stuff about my character and other characters, and I purposely give her nothing to wreck her head. But
Love it.
But basically there was like deals that needed to be struck with Renyov as a result of him coming back, and there's one big thing he has to do. But also I've made some changes. I kind of threw at Gavin. I said, look, I think if I was to come back, maybe he'd be kind of like angrier, like he died in combat, and maybe he feels, I don't know. Also, he came back and another character didn't. Maybe he feels guilty about that, and that manifests in rage. And he's not an angry character to begin with. In fact, he's quite stoic. Even in a fight, he treats a fight like, or he did. He treats a fight like almost like a dance, like a choreographed dance. Like he knows when someone moves this way, I move this way, and it's all very logical to him. But since he's come back now, we've only had one proper fight since he came back, but he was merciless in that fight. And I didn't play him that way before, but I'm playing him that way going forward until I can find a way for his character to find a resolution for his anger and for his guilt. And I'll be open to that, but also I'm open to the idea that maybe he doesn't. Maybe he actually descends further, depending on what happens. Maybe he starts taking on more baggage or whatever. And I'm open to the idea of the character going a lot of different ways. And I think something you can do, and it's not going to be fun for you as a player, and it's not going to be fun for your DM, and it's ultimately this misalignment is ultimately going to end up with disappointment, is that if you go into a game with a character and you have a predetermined idea in your head of where you want this character to be in however long, and it's one thing to have goals as a character and try to achieve those goals, but sometimes unexpected things happen as well. Characters die. Someone attacks you with a Vorpal sword, you lose an arm, stuff like that. Stuff can happen that can basically change or dramatically change the course. And if you're playing a very roleplay heavy game, where there's characters and countries and kingdoms and friends and family and all this stuff that you're heavily invested in, your character is heavily invested in, depending on what happens to them, good or bad, that could steer your character in very different ways you didn't think. And what I'm most excited about for my character Renyov is that I don't know where he's going. I'm not steering him any one which way. I'm like, he died. That was completely unplanned. Because he died, he came back. He's now angrier. How am I going to find a resolution? Am I going to find a resolution? Renyov could end up going down a very dark path and being a very aggressive, ruthless person right to the end. Or he could find redemption somewhere down the line and end up being someone who is who kind of comes back or turns back from it. And a big part of, like you said, your character does not, or creating your character or designing your character does not end when you click done on D&D Beyond, and it does not end when you hand your DM your backstory. It ends at level 20 or whenever your campaign ends, because you should be constantly thinking about who your character is and what they're doing, and that should inform character development,
and the actions you take in the game as well,
and the actions you take.
No, that's a really, really good point. I think it is just natural to kind of see when you finish going through all the tabs in D&D Beyond and you hit view character sheet. It's kind of natural to see that as the end of your character creation. But like it is definitely much more of an ongoing thing, and you can take rapid changes and turns. Like if you can really change characters purely by multiclassing. You can multiclass. You can they actually just added in rules in, was it Tasha's? Was it Tasha's they added in the rules for changing your subclass?
Oh yes, yeah. There's something in there about talking to your DM if you do decide, because we've talked about it before. Things like paladins, you might become a paladin who decides to take a vengeance oath because a member of your party died in the game, stuff like that. Absolutely. You can very much you can change, and your alignment can change, and your goals and stuff like that can change as well. So there's absolutely nothing, I don't think, to, well, like you said, it's in the book, it's in Tasha's.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I definitely recommend having a look at that.
And like, if for whatever reason after a few levels you're not feeling your character, you don't feel like you're locked into it. Like, you can absolutely just have a chat with your DM, explain what's going on. You could either retire that character or just take them in an entirely new direction, change their subclasses, change their class, and you can spin out some really, really cool story and roleplay moments out of that as well. Oh, and
I think any
no, go on.
I was going to say, I think any DM worth their salt is going to, if you come to them and say, hey, look, I picked this subclass or this class or this race, I'm not totally enjoying it. Is there any way I could maybe try this other one instead? And I think any DM worth their salt would give a player that option, because at the end of the day, you're trying to have fun. And if you're not enjoying the class you picked, or you're not enjoying this or whatever, any DM should be open to the idea of you taking things a different direction.
Particularly if you've got a good story reason behind it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, okay, changing race might be a bit more.
Yeah, that'll involve some probably some like magic, maybe a wish spell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I mean, like, there's nothing to say that like subclasses are very easy.
Oh, totally.
Particularly I think to change
like, a fighter, like you can just change your fighting style. That's like
that's the thing. Yeah.
Maybe you're a greatsword wielder and you lose an arm in battle, so you switch to longsword instead, and you change from your fighting style from great weapon master to dueling.
Yeah, exactly. Or exactly, dueling, or you could even go like maybe
anything. Like it's open.
Yeah.
Like I guess that's what we're trying to emphasize. Is that like create your character, put the time in to create a character that you're happy with. But if after a while you feel the need to change that option is still available to you. So the character creation thing, it's, I don't know, I suppose what, like a jar not closed.
Yeah, it's fluid. It's something that's always up for. It's why you can see that, like, obviously in the old days when you had character sheets that were actually sheets, and why oftentimes it's best to write things down in pencil, because things change. Don't ever write character sheets in pen, because things can change even session to session or anything like that, you know.
Don't write character sheets in pen, because disintegrate exists as a spell.
Exactly. But Martin.
Yes, Connor.
Martin, that's all the time we have for today.
Ooh, that was a fun one, man. I want to, before we sign off rapidly, I want to say a shout out to Steve at Getty Mercury on Twitter, who requested this. As I said, he is a member of my party, so it was cool to get a request from them. But if you anyone listening has an idea for a show or a topic that you'd like us to cover, or even just a quick question about D&D in general, you can leave us a comment on YouTube here, or you can tweet us at Micflayers pod on Twitter. And let us know if there's anything else you want us to cover. Doing these viewer specials are a lot of fun, and it means me and Conor can have a chance to like talk over someone else's ideas rather than our own for once.
Yeah.
But Conor, where can people find you on the internet?
People can find me here on the Micflayers podcast every Friday at 6 p.m. Irish time. And they can also find me on Twitter at 0.Conor, ZeroPointConor, or 1N. Very important. Again, important. We seemed like we were synced up on my screen, but I don't think it was.
We'll get it eventually. I think we're like a fraction of a second off. It's definitely a bit delay. But yeah, if you want to try and find me on the internet, please do it on the internet, not in person. That's creepy. But you can find me on Twitter at So Sorry It's Over. You can also find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Mert. I actually just started a Devil May Cry 5 playthrough this week, so if you're into that, give that a look. I'll be streaming some more of it. And yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah, Twitter and Twitch is mostly where you can find me, but you can also find me on the Micflayers podcast every Friday at 6 p.m. Irish time. So thank you very much, folks, for watching, and we'll see you this time next week. Bye-bye.
Later, folks.